Hi, my name's Fiona, and welcome to the Creative Pathways podcast.
Hello, and I'm Keith, and welcome to the Creative Pathways podcast.
And we've been talking in the last two podcasts about Iceland.
Yeah.
And this week, I think we're going to finish that one because, wow, we could probably do 10 weeks on that.
Yeah, we've got to edit it, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but I think it's time this week to put that one to bed and move on to our next country.
Yeah. Okay. So you go.
Well, we learnt a lot in Iceland. We learnt a lot about the power of land, the power of weather.
Yeah.
Yeah. The power of water, because wow.
Yes,
yeah.
good. Remember the waterfall? We went behind the water. You can walk behind the back of that one.
Yes.
And the water comes down. It was a sunny day, and there was rainbow. And when you moved, the rainbow moved with you.
That's right. There was rainbows both over it and on the ground in front of it.
Yeah, because
as well.
of the spray. Because of the spray, there's more and more rainbow, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Oh, that was fantastic. That just came back.
That was a major sight, wasn't it?
It's fantastic, yeah. And this is it. There's so many kind of powerful and beautiful sights. Iceland is a country of massive beauty
and stark beauty.
Now, is stark an English word or Norwegian or?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah. No, I think it's English.
Okay, but they call it stark as well, don't they? In the Scandinavian languages, stark can mean be strong, but it's kind of like powerful, and it's a bit harsh, isn't it? And it's all of those things, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Completely all of those things, yeah. And I mean, the weather, even if you look at that day we went to the waterfall, that was nice weather, wasn't it? It was summertime, I think.
It was sunshine, yeah, and it was quite warm. I had a T-shirt on, didn't I?
Yeah.
So
I'm sure it was warm that day. But I was also thinking about when it was windy and cold and snowing. It had its own kind of magic, didn't it?
Yeah.
That was where we first saw the graveyards lit up, wasn't it?
In Iceland, yeah, in Reykjavik, yeah.
That's a powerful.
Because I don't do that in England, and then we saw it again, of course, in Oslo, and then we saw it again in
Sweden. But the first time in Iceland, it is a most powerful sight. Because I'm not sure what days that they do it on.
Well, it's different saints' days.
Yeah. Different celebrations.
Because they're nominally Christian in a way, aren't they? Because they're kind of Christian and everything else mixed up.
I think they just play lip service to it. But to go out and see, people go out and put candles on all of their graves, in the graveyards, on their relatives and friends, I suppose.
Well, we just hadn't seen it before, had we?
And to see it lit up like that with candles was amazing, wasn't it?
I forgot we saw that first time in
Reykjavik. Yeah. I mean, that was just an amazing sight. And then you've got the power of spirituality coming through there. That's why I don't think they're bothered about, in some ways, the Christian side of things.
Well, I don't think the Christian ever. I mean, think about it. They had their own religion, and then the Christians came and took away the old Viking religion, and the old Viking religion was before that. There was other ones mixed in with that too, and it just never seemed that it was a fully Christian country, did it?
No. Well, like you reminded me about the church.
Yeah.
And I cannot remember seeing that church, actually.
Yeah, but... you mean the church in Reykjavik, the big new modern white one? Yes, we were talking about that.
Yeah, we were talking about. Sorry, we were talking about that this morning.
And the thing with that church is, it is beautiful, it is wonderful, and they have whoever designed it designed it with with the knowledge of the nature, the ice, the stone, and of course the spiritual feelings, which aren't just Christian. They have that, we could call it pagan or nature worship. They have the ancient religion within the more modern religion, if you put it that way.
Yeah. But I just feel the Icelandics are just so much more in touch with their spirituality and spiritual side of everything, whether it's land, whether it's weather, whether it's fire.
And that created a challenge for us because of what work to do with the people, didn't it?
Yes.
I mean, they were fascinated with readings, but you'd have someone come for a reading and they'd tell you, they would have recorded them down, this is my 60-second reading. And I've been with this medium and this medium and this medium.
Yeah.
And you get the feeling they're giving you points at the end of it, you know.
Yeah, scores, yeah.
What score did I get? And that was quite challenging in a way, definitely. But they also had a dry sense of humour, don't you think? And they could con you in a kind of way, in a funny way, you know, and have a joke, but it wasn't nasty.
No, and I also think they had a very, very strong connection to their past lives and what they'd been doing and being in their past lives, because we did an awful lot of past life work there, didn't we?
Yeah, well, you have your hypnosis and you were doing all the hypnosis, and I was doing actually the talking them back with my guide, and we were going into some very, very interesting places with those past lives. And we talked about the stuff with your past life there and mine, and also the Irish seemed to have been there before the Vikings came and stuff like that, and some people knew that, didn't they? So all of this kind of mix was hitting you all the time. You couldn't do a normal reading, could you? It wasn't. You could set out and think, I will do this in the reading, which you could do in every other country. But you couldn't do that, could you, in Iceland? You see what I mean?
I was thinking actually about those past life maps that you drew and painted for them. I mean, some of those were fascinating, actually.
Yeah, I actually don't think... I did a few in Sweden later, but I think I stopped when I was inspired by Iceland.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was kind of specific to Iceland, wasn't it?
I see the auric field very, very clearly, and I see colours, and I'm an artist too, so I paint a lot. And so seeing the colours, in Iceland, we talked about Fiona seeing the small people, and myself too. The background energy is so strong that you actually, when the person comes into your sight, the auric field is easy to see. I think it's more energized.
Yeah, it's more powerful. Do you think that's because they're more grounded?
I think
they're right. Even though there's a lot of, I'm going to say neurosis.
Yes, it's isolation neurosis.
But there is also a lot of root chakra energy there.
Yeah. Of course, that's the earth bit, isn't it?
Yeah, but they also can have a lot of trauma within themselves, and yet they still have quite powerfully driven root chakras.
Oh, what powerful people. I mean, think about this. You know, if trauma is passed in DNA, which it could be, in the genetic structure of our bodies, then think about these people and you know, all Vikings had it hard in winter, but the Icelanders, they didn't even have trees, and they built that country from nothing. So they will have genetically be holding a lot of trauma, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's what made them so strong, and that's what made their spirituality so special. And that's why I personally feel that the Christianity that you met in other countries never fully dominated the Icelanders.
No, I just feel they always retain that link to their own inner spirituality.
Yeah.
And the fact that a lot of them had a lot of knowledge about their own past lives as well, just naturally knew.
Absolutely.
Didn't they?
You couldn't pull a false past life out on I would say 99% of them. You couldn't just make a past life because they had such a way of going almost into meditation themselves because of those sacred places. They would sit on certain stones and stuff like that. They had practice. They had like their own Zen practice in a way. Stone sitting. Stone sitting was their Zen practice. So the work you did and the work that I did, it would kind of cut into that, didn't it? It opened that up and allowed it to come to the surface so they could work with it more constructively in a way.
Yeah, and I do think that we saw so much of our own past lives there because we were meant to see whether they were affecting us in that time.
Yeah, and that was not easy, was it?
No, some of that was not easy, especially those ones I chopped the heads off. That was not easy.
Yeah. I think one of the most interesting ones was that one where you talked about when we had that talk about you and not collecting money for your work, doing loads of work, like 7 hours and collecting 20 pence. No, we can talk about Corona, but it wasn't much, and you found it difficult to ask for money for your work. And if you remember that past life you saw.
Yeah, well, I was shown, I'm absolutely certain I was shown that to value myself. I mean, short version, I was a wandering healer I'm sure it was in India, somewhere like that. I was slightly disabled and I was going from place to place and depending on people to give me food and shelter in payment for my help. And I feel I was shown that quite distinctly to make me realise that I deserved to be paid for my learning and my teaching and myself. So it taught me value, which was good. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, you had that terrible experience, didn't you, with that man that came for a past life reading?
I'll try and cut this short because it is a very powerful and long thing. But what happened?
Yeah, I think that's a learning process, though.
Would you like me to talk about it now?
Yes, sorry, go on.
No, I'm just asking because it is hard to cut short. To shorten the story, since I was...
No, don't shorten it.
Okay, since I was a child, I always had this thing about the Jewish situation and especially the Second World War and the death camps. And I saw myself as a little boy, and I think I only got to 6 or 7 years old and died in that life. And I just confirmed later, and we'll talk about it on another podcast. But I just knew I'd been Jewish and I died. And I died in a death camp. And I was fascinated with watching it all the time. TV, books I get out of the library, etc., etc. So I was to cut the story short, as Fiona said. Fiona was out getting shopping, I believe, and I had a man coming for a reading at the house. He wanted a past life reading, so he was coming by bus. And I opened the door, and it was May time, so it was nice and sunny, and it's quite warm. I opened the door, and the bus pulls out up, and 3 people get off, and just one man, and he's got a long coat on. And I just shook because
a long leather coat.
Long leather coat. He looked like a Nazi, basically. And he came walking down and he shook my hand in a very formal way, very strong, hand stretched out, arms straight, introduced himself, etc. Mr. Surtees. I asked him to call me Keith. He didn't. He kept calling me Mr. So we sat down and I gave him 2 past lives and he just wasn't interested at all. He was totally... with his eyes closed listening, but he was not animated in the slightest. And then I came to the 3rd life that I saw, and I said, I see you as a high-up soldier, or maybe not soldier, but military of some kind, in Nazi Germany. And his back shot straight up. And his eyes, he had his eyes closed. He opened his eyes, he looked at me and he said, yes, and we should have killed all of those effing Jews. And I'm just looking at him, and I put my hand under the table at that point because I was shaking. I was shaking and shaking.
Yeah, well, it brought up all those feelings,
Oh my
didn't it?
God, I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. And I wanted to run out the back door. I just wanted to escape out of that room. And I'm calling on my people, saying, help, keep me calm, keep me calm. Well, I managed to finish the reading, but basically he was proud, and he still believed that the Jews were the problem for the world and should be exterminated. Full stop. He hadn't moved on from that.
No, he hadn't left it behind,
No,
had he?
no, and he still believed it. So he was really happy to realise that his dream of being a Nazi killer was true. So that makes you think as well about past lives, doesn't it?
And how they affect us today.
And do people really move forward, or do they continually sometimes repeat the same mistakes as well?
Yeah, I think that's in some ways a huge subject to
we can't get into that.
Why they want to keep holding on to those feelings.
Or why they can't let go of them. I mean, you could say I was shaken, and when we talk about it, I can still shake inside and go very cold. But when you took me through Germany, it made me drive, because I wanted to drive down Germany when we were going south to Spain. I loved it. I loved Germany. I could hear the language. And strange thing is, I understand a lot of what they're saying. Maybe because it's Swedish, but maybe not. And I like Germany. And I think I liked them until they suddenly didn't like Jews.
Yeah, well.
So
but it is fascinating. I mean, it is fascinating to know why somebody actually living in a place like Iceland would still hold on to those feelings. I mean, apparently he had lots of memorabilia, didn't he, from the war. And
did I tell you that?
No, I'll tell you. Somebody else told me. I was just...
No, it's just that I've forgotten. You see, I have actually blocked out a lot of that.
No, it was one of our translators that told me that, and told me he was well known for, for those things.
Interests.
And you think, well, why would someone in this day and age, and living where he did, with all the other things that could influence him, still be wanted to be influenced by that horrible period of time in our history?
I don't know, but I can think of another thing which is interest of mine, which is the Qatars in south of France, and where over, I reckon, 3 million religious people who weren't Catholic because they believed that Jesus had a child called Sarah, and he was married to Mary Magdalena. The whole region was razed to the ground by the Catholic Church, over a 30-year war. And I've got a lot of connection to that. And I think that there's these things that we have deep in our soul where we've stood up for something, but it's hard to say because we suffered for that standing up. And I think a lot of people still go down with those traumas and don't know why. They have a background anxiety inside them. And our hypnosis, especially your hypnosis work, because you're more trained than I am, your hypnosis work dug into that and helped, I think, quite a few people to find what was blocking them, what was creating the anxiety, and what was blocking their potential.
Yeah, but that I can see and I can kind of reason with, but I still haven't fathomed why people would want to carry around horrific things like that man did. It was awful, and he really was living it in his own way again, living the hatred. So that I don't understand. When we get through past lives and we get through them or we help somebody else to get through a situation or a feeling, then I understand that. But when people just stay stuck and are proud of of things that they've done that are not nice. And let's face it, if you go back in your past lives, you're going to find stuff that you've done that isn't nice. It's very simple. But to hold on to it, now that's something completely different.
Yeah, but I will say one thing. We don't know what he's like today, do we?
No, true. Maybe,
is he still in that? I mean, that would be interesting to find out. Because
because
it's a long time now.
It's 30 odd years ago. I forget that.
Yeah, it's quite some time ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
He might not be there. He might have been released from that by now. You see?
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe the gestalt or the pattern has been melted by that sitting. I know it melted a lot of my fears. And now I've always kind of liked German people. And now I really like them when I meet them here. I like them.
Yes, yeah.
I like their attitude.
Absolutely.
I like most things about them. I like bratwurst. I like
chips and mayonnaise. Well, that's something that, we don't really have an answer to. It would be interesting now I come to think of it to know. But really rounding it up, we learnt a lot of things, didn't we, for ourselves in Iceland?
Yeah, I think we owned our skills there. And I think, for me, I think it awoke colour. You know, when I started painting in Sweden, suddenly the abstract, powerful colour paintings that I do. I think Iceland, I couldn't have done it without Iceland. I think Iceland awoke something of a talk with Mother Nature. The other thing I feel I can only say this very briefly, is that it awoke the absolute feeling that God is both male and female and never should have been just male. And that's one of the biggest problems in this world, that we have an image of a male God and not the yin and yang, not the perfect balances and changing of male and female. That God is both male and female, and constantly dancing a dance of love, not a dance of hatred.
So, as you can see, we both learned a lot from Iceland. We awakened a lot in ourselves, and we awakened a lot in other people too. So next time that we meet, we will be on our way to Norway.
Yeah, we're going to talk about our first visit to Norway, and then there was many others, wasn't there?
Yeah, the Norway experience. So take care of yourselves. See you soon.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Look after yourself.